Square Enix reconsidering JRPG approach. Hey everyone, this is Fabriello and welcome back. Reading this news right now was something really different. It changed my day basically. After a boring day at work, I couldn't believe reading something like this. Apparently, thanks to the success of Bravely Default on the 3DS, Square Enix have decided to change its approach to JRPG. The president of the company itself, Yosuke Matsuda, said in a recent interview that the company will now be putting more effort even on heavy JRPG. And I think this is really interesting and amazing. I mean, we're talking about Square Enix, a fusion of two companies that always been like the prime examples of JRPG making. I mean, we're talking about the companies of Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. But anyways, this is great news, I believe. But also, I have a lot to say. I was thinking about it right now, and my mind was just going on a trip about all the my thinking on JRPG genre. We have to remember that JRPG is a massive genre today. It's a huge part of the market in video game. It has an incredibly large fan base. Things weren't like this always. As we know, it all started thanks to Squaresoft, as it was called once, when they released Final Fantasy VII. That is the pivotal date. Before that, JRPG were kind of hidden gems. Like if you were at the time an hardcore video games, you knew about games like Final Fantasy VI or 2 or Chrono Trigger, or even before like the Dragon Quest on the NES. They weren't the really hot stuff on video games. But today, in a way, from Final Fantasy VII and I believe the following 10 years, JRPG were the console selling games, basically. They were, every company was trying to make JRPGs at the time. And that continued off after the second golden age on the PlayStation 1, as I like to call it, up to all the period of the PlayStation 2. And it slowed down, I think, with the PS3 and that generation of consoles. On the Wii, for example, JRPG was almost non-existent, with the exception of some great games. Of course, I'm not saying that there aren't JRPGs on the Wii, because nowadays every console must have some JRPGs. And they, of course, usually awesome. I mean, Xenoblade, Last Story, these are great games. But back to Square Enix. I mean, I thought this news was unbelievable. I mean, what Square Enix say? Well, maybe we should like concentrate our efforts more on JRPG. I mean, you don't say. You are Square Enix, for crying out loud. You're supposed to make the greatest RPGs, JRPGs, and apparently all this thanks to this game, Bravely Default. I have to admit, I haven't played it, simply because I don't have a 3DS yet, but probably I will buy it, and I will definitely buy it with Bravely Default, because I'm really, really curious about this game now. And to me, it's has a sort of Final Fantasy VII effect again. I mean, it's again by Square, and it's a game that everyone is talking about. This game, I believe, for the right reasons. Why should they if it's not good? But I think it's very good. I mean, I heard so many good things about this game, and the interesting thing is, it almost like this game was meant to be good. It was meant to be a huge success and revive the JRPG game, revive the JRPG genre. Because we have to remember, I mean, nowadays probably Bravely Default will be the game that everyone will remember, that it started the new golden age of JRPG, and all new gamers will start playing JRPGs again, and an entire new generation of people will enjoy the genre. I hope so. I hope so. Because I am a huge JRPG fan. I grew up playing those games since the early 90s. So I really hope so. I'm not trying to be cynical or whatever here. I'm just trying to say whatever it's in my mind, because I think it's very interesting that Square said something like this. I mean, the latest game that they developed, it's Lightning Returns. I mean, it's a part of the Final Fantasy saga. You may like it or not, this game. I haven't played it, so I don't know, but I have heard so many bad things on that game. I mean, wow, that's a Final Fantasy. That isn't a JRPG game. And but for whatever reason, it's not a success. I mean, I understand the reasons. I mean, it seems that especially with an entire chapter of Final Fantasy 13, the Final Fantasy series kind of lost its way, but that's another story, I believe. So, Bravely Default was meant to be a success, for what I heard. I mean, this game was talked a lot before it was released. Everyone already said this is the game, this is a great game. JRPG are coming back, even though up until I think 1 year ago, all magazines on the internet, wherever you will read articles saying like JRPGs are dead. I mean, we didn't have any good JRPGs, and the genre is over. I mean, why? That's not true. Over the last, I believe, 10 years, that is probably till the when the genre probably was a little crowded on the PlayStation 2 and that generation up until today. Maybe it is true that we didn't have the same quality products, but we had the great games in the meanwhile. I mean, it's not that Bravely Default really changed the face of JRPG, I think. I'll be more um, I'll have more to say about that game when I played it, because I'm definitely gonna play it now. But from my experience over the last years, even though I really decreased my gaming and my gaming time for different reasons, for the last 4 years or something. That's really depressing to think that it's been so long. I mainly played like 90% of my gaming time has been the DS, and that's it. Mainly for work and everything, I didn't have much time to play games. But for example, the DS was a great system from JRPG, and from my DS collection, I already choose two amazing games that are recent. I mean, these both of them were released in 2011. Devil Survivor 2. This is a great game, an amazing JRPG with more strategic elements, but it's fine. I haven't played the first one simply because it's very expensive to buy it now. I don't know why, at least the last time I checked. But this is an awesome game. It is definitely one of the most fun, interesting, darker games I've played on a Nintendo system, by the way, with an amazing story. I almost finished it, by the way. Um, and I had so much fun playing this. Even like the story was so interesting, and you want to discover more, explore more, and interact with all these really good characters. I mean, this is a great game for the DS. And what about Radiant Historia? This is my personal favorite, probably DS games among the original games. And I'll say without worries. I mean, this is one of the best JRPG I've played, something like in the last 3 years or something. And this is a great game, and it was released in during the period that when people were saying that JRPG were over. That's not true. What about all the great games on the Wii U, on the PS3, on the 360, I suppose? I'm more familiar with these two systems. And on the DS, on the PSP, all this, well, there are so many great RPGs. I found really weird that now there is suddenly a revival of the genre. The thing that I hope from Bravely Default and from new policy of Square Enix and all other companies, I hope that Capcom will do this too with Breath of Fire 6, but this is just a dream. It's that maybe Bravely Default with its success will be a little push to say, well, wake up, JRPG are not dead. Maybe over the last years, people are more interested in games like Battlefield, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, and Grand Theft Auto. That's not true. I mean, they are not the entire totally of the game market. They're a big part of it, undoubtedly. But JRPGs are another big part of the market. I mean, there are a lot of people who love JRPGs. So it's not that Bravely Default really changed everything, I think, in the game market and industry. The good thing will probably be a wake-up call to the company who say, well, JRPGs are still popular, even though maybe in the last few years they've been a little more hidden than they should be, because since Final Fantasy VII they became huge. So why they should be like became again hidden gems? That doesn't make any sense. So I'm really curious, and now I'm even more curious to try Bravely Default. But I'm really curious for the future of JRPGs. Certainly, I never believed, even for a second, that they were dead, and over the last 5 to 10 years they all going to disappear, because that wasn't true. We had great games over the last 10 years. I think. I mean, I just said these two games, but I can go on forever with amazing games for the Wii and the PS3 and the PSP and other great system other than the DS, simply because it's here with me. So it's a good thing that Bravely Default has great success, and not only in Japan but also in the West. That is the great thing about this. Its success is also in the West, and because JRPG is always popular in Japan, that's not a big news. The thing is, there are games that help the spread of popularity in the world. And in this interview, the president of Square Enix was saying, "Wow, this made me realize how spread JRPG fans are." I mean, it is the president of Square Enix, and it even doesn't know this. I was very surprised. I mean, dude, wake up. I mean, you didn't know something like this. Obviously, they're spread all over the world. And Bravely Default has, as I said, I really hope that this game will become a sort of new Final Fantasy VII and will help a new generation of gamers to discover or rediscover, probably it sounds better, JRPGs. And I can say this because Bravely Default has a massive advantage over Final Fantasy VII. It's time. I mean, the timing couldn't be perfect for a game nowadays to be popular and to help spreading the popularity of its genre. Final Fantasy VII came out in the mid-90s. What was it, 95, 96, something like that? Times have changed in this almost so many years. I mean, nowadays, Bravely Default has the advantage of internet, has the advantage of social networks, and all of that. It's not just about word of mouth and magazines as it was back then, even though it was very fascinating and I love it. It's very nostalgic thinking about it, that you discover games like that from a friend, reading the magazines or something like that. Today you have internet. Today you have Facebook, Twitter, everything you want. You can discover anything about a game from the first day to the release date. It's so much easier in that way in terms of communication, and that is an amazing advantage that Bravely Default has over the entire Final Fantasy VII and other games that were massively popular at the time. So it is a great news. I'm really happy that Square Enix suddenly realized that JRPG should be an important part of their market. So we'll see what the future will hold for Square Enix. I really hope for a new direction for the Final Fantasy series. I'm always hoping that it comes back to a sort of old school approach, like in Final Fantasy 4, 5, 6, and 9. Those are my personal favorite, 6 and 9 in particular. Or maybe just abandon this weird direction that Final Fantasy 13 brought the series, because I played Final Fantasy 12 and I thought it was very good. So you don't have to be like remake the games. Like I heard that Square Enix was thinking about remake Final Fantasy 7. Yeah, why not? You could be a nice for the anniversary of the game, but just develop new games. Follow the success of Bravely Default. That's a great thing. Invest in JRPG, Square Enix. If you don't do this, who will? I mean, you are Square Enix. You're supposed to make great JRPGs. Help to spread the popularity of the genre once more. I mean, games like Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed or Grand Theft Auto are not the only ones. People want JRPGs. Good JRPGs are always welcome. And again, I'm a big time fan. I've been playing JRPGs my whole life, so a good one, it's always welcome. And it really interesting. I will follow it. I will follow with very interest the development of Bravely Default and its, I mean, its rightly success. I mean, Again, I'm very happy. I hope I didn't give you any wrong impression with it by comparing Final Fantasy VII, but the occasion seems so similar. The same company, the same kind of game, people talking about this so much. Everyone is saying that it's such a great game. I'm so curious now because Final Fantasy VII didn't go well for me, so I can't tell more because I haven't played Brave Default, so I'm very, very curious about it. But this is, again, great news, and I would like to see and hear what you think about these guys. So, like always, leave video responses, comments, whatever you like, because this is so interesting that Square Enix wants to invest more in JRPG, and it's about time. I say this to conclude the video. It's about time that they realize that they should invest in great JRPG. And let's hope that the success of Bravely Default will also support other companies in reinvest in this genre that was wrongly forgotten for, I think, a few years, even though during this year it almost like felt going back to the early 90s when JRPG weren't very popular. Because it felt like that. I kind of felt there's a sort of less popularity in the genre in the last 5 years or something. So this is great news. I really praise the success of Break Default. I will definitely play the game soon. So for now, this is all, guys. Thanks for watching like always, and take care.